What's up, everyone? I'm Melissa Elise and you're watching Melissa Elise TV. Welcome to my May book club. In this video, I'll be reviewing The Fiery Cross, book 5 in the Outlander series, and of course revealing the next book of the month. So let's get to it. The story picks up right where Drums of Autumn left off, and I don't know if that's significant, but this is really the only book in the series so far that has done that, as opposed to any sort of time jump. Even between Voyager and Drums of Autumn, there's a 3-month lapse. So if you're reading them back to back like I did, it's pretty much like turning the page. Likely this is the very next day, or at least it reads that way, with Jamie and Claire, Brianna and Roger, Fergus and Marsley, and all of their kids still at the gathering. And the first hurdle they all have to get over is getting Bree and Roger, as well as Jocasta and Duncan, married. Now you wouldn't think it would be that difficult to get two couples married in one day, but Diana takes 14 chapters and a whole lot of problems and detours to get just one couple, Bree and Roger, married, and by a replacement Presbyterian minister because the Catholic priest was arrested by the sheriff. Some of the problems that Diana introduces in the first 14 chapters end up playing bigger roles in the rest of the book, starting with the regulators' uprising. In the wake of a relatively small but violent riot, Governor Tryon, the same governor who gave Jamie the land grant for Fraser's Ridge, orders him to assemble men to serve in a militia, with Jamie as colonel. I don't know if you would say that this is the primary plotline of the book, though it is one the characters have to keep coming back to, since the militia gets called out twice, though they only see one battle. And this is also where we see the symbol of the Fiery Cross, which serves as a call to arms for the men of a clan. Now, the men living on the ridge aren't all Frasers, so they're not a part of Jamie's clan, but he lights one in the front yard of the ridge to try and call as many men to fight with and for him. Of course, there's parallels to Gabaldon, Jamie leading his men out to war in the face of what Claire has told him will happen. And now, Claire, Brianna, and Roger have all warned him about the future. But they're still a little over 4 years out from the revolution, and this time there's victory for the rebels. But in the meantime, Jamie and his family have to walk a thin line between oaths sworn to the crown and supporting the rebel cause. Another plot introduced early on, but you would almost overlook, especially since Diana doesn't come back to it until almost halfway through the book, is the Catholic priest's arrest at the gathering. Though Brianna and Roger still get married by the Presbyterian minister, Joe and Duncan do not, which was exactly the point of the priest's arrest. The question of why anyone would want to prevent their marriage is posed at the time, but looking at it now, there was no way of knowing how far and how deep this plot would go. When Joe and Duncan finally do get married at least 5 months later, there's another attempt made to prevent the wedding, but this time on Duncan's life, and someone actually does die. A slave who was meant to give a cup of poisoned wine to Duncan, but when he refuses, she drinks it, not knowing what was in it. But the poison doesn't kill her, so the culprit has to go back and finish the job. Things only get crazier from there, with Joe and Duncan held hostage in their own bedroom the night after their wedding, while Jamie and Claire are trying to perform an autopsy on the dead woman. And if you thought things couldn't get wilder, Stephen Bonnet shows up and Jamie goes off after him. He doesn't catch him, of course, but his presence at this point comes out of nowhere. Yet, it all seems to center around the supposed French gold sent to the Bonnie Prince by his cousin Louis, King of France. It turns out that this gold wasn't so supposed as we thought, because it did come, albeit too late. But Hector and Jocasta Cameron were there to meet it, along with Dougal Mackenzie. Now, Joe gives them some quick story about how they lost the gold when they were fleeing after Culloden, but nobody believes her, least of all Stephen Bonnet. But we don't find out his full involvement until close to the end of the book. If anything, you could say that this is the foremost plot because Jamie spends the majority of the book looking for Stephen Bonnet, pretty much making it known that he's trying to find him. But his and Roger's plan kind of gets turned on its head in the end. While they go and try to meet him, he goes and is trying to kidnap Bree and Jemmy. A lot of the chapters in the book come back around to talk about Bonnet, either by way of Jemmy, whether or not he's Bonnet's or Roger's son, or when Roger asked Jamie to teach him how to fight so that he can kill Bonnet, and then again when Claire and Bree try to convince Jamie to stop looking for him. Of course, this plot also had a bit of Diana's usual contrived connections with the doctor, whose equipment Claire's been using and whose journal she's been reading, ending up being the same guy who found out about the gold in the first place. And Hector Cameron killed him and buried him in his own crypt, where, you guessed it, the remaining French gold is hidden. All the moving pieces of this plot are almost too much to track with, but my favorite part has to be Brianna shooting Bonnet in the crotch. Though he blocks it with his hands, so we don't actually know if she got anything below the belt. In the end, things circle back around to the coming war though, with Roger deciding that he and his family will stay and face it by Jamie and Claire's side. So far, I haven't really been singing the praises of this book, and I don't want it to seem like I didn't like it. I really enjoyed this one. So much so that I'm not sure where it lands for me in terms of favorites. I mean, obviously I won't have an ultimate favorite until I read all of the books, and I still have at least 3 more to go. But for now, I think it's still Drums of Autumn. But The Fiery Cross, I think, is my second favorite, even over Dragonfly and Amber, because what's happening in this book takes this story to a whole nother level. I feel like I say this about every book, but there really is so much that can be said about this book, and yet not enough. There's so much going on, but it's mixed with everyday life stuff, which I love because it's so nice to see Jamie and Claire, and now Brianna and Roger, have some resemblance of a normal life. And one of the reasons I really did love this book was because of Roger. I thought he went through it in drums, but wow. And Jamie really adopts Roger as his heir and son. He makes him captain in the militia, and in part this is out of necessity because with Ian gone and Fergus only able to do so much, and because Roger's married to Jamie's only daughter, by marriage that does kind of make him his heir. But there really is this friendship and family bond that forms in the end. As I said before, I really enjoyed this book, but I can say that I love the last 3 chapters because of young Ian's return. I didn't talk about this much in last month's review because it was actually quite an emotional point for me. I just could not believe what happened to Ian. And if you don't know, again, I would highly recommend reading Drums of Autumn, or I guess you could just wait for season 4 to air. But I feel so much better now that young Ian is back, and I'm looking forward to finding out what he's been through, about his time with the Mohawk Indians, and why he gets to come home. As far as other characters, I really love the grandkids. Jermaine and Jemmy are so adorable. But my favorite new character is Adso the cat. He is so cute and funny and just, thank you, Diana. That's what this story needed, a cat. All the characters are great, really, and to see each one of them develop over each book is so fulfilling, but also nerve-wracking because I don't want anything to happen to any of them. I could always say more, and I kind of want to about Claire and Jamie, but I won't. You guys know where to reach me, and if you don't, you can check the description below for all my social media handles to connect. I don't have a question for you guys this month, but if you have a question for me, please let me know in the comments section. And of course, let me know what you thought of The Fiery Cross. Now, I can't just give up here, so of course the book of the month for May is A Breath of Snow and Ashes. I hope you'll join me as I continue the Outlander series, and as always, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next month. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, consider subscribing for more book reviews.